Island Habit and the sign language interpreter this morning is Chebi Watt. Today is the first day of September. The year is 2025, and we are here to keep you up to speed with what is happening in the country. And we'll be starting it off with the stories that are making headlines in the country, after which we shall be extrapolating the dailies with Professor Ogola, and of course our conversation later on in the show. And we'll see if we'll be able to squeeze in some time for some sporting action. And you can be a part of all of this by heading onto our social media platforms. That is Science TV Kenya at the Island Habit, hashtag Science Breakfast, hashtag the Island Habit, or you can find us on web. That is at www.sciencetv.co.ke. You could also utilize the numbers on your screen, SMS us and WhatsApp us, and we'll be glad to sample some of your feedback. With members of parliament allied to the Kenya Moja outfit have continued to sustain pressure on Health Cabinet Secretary Aden Duale, asking him to quit or be kicked out. And as Kamau and their counterparts in government, however, want the cabinet secretary to tighten the individuals and facilities involved in fraud. Here are the full details to the story.
Sasa kuna vijana wamezungumza hapa wakasema hali mbaya ya uchumi ambaye haitoi nafasi za kazi inapelekea kwamba vijana wanajiingiza kwa mambo ambayo yanaweza kuwadhuru. Wale ambao mnasoma gazeti ya leo Nation, headline ilikuwa kwamba huko Nairobi sehemu zinaitwa Umoja na kwingine kule Eastlands, vijana wadogo hata chini ya miaka 18 wameunda magenge ya majambazi, wanaua watu na kuwaibia. Na hii serikali wakati walikuwa na campaign, William Ruto alituambia kila mwaka serikali yake itakuwa inatoa kazi 2,000,000. Hiyo kazi 2,000,000 hapa Funyula mumeiona nyinyi? Mumeiona? Vijana wamepoteza tamaa mpaka wanajiingiza kwa mambo ambaye haieleweki, mambo ambaye ni ya hatari sana, ambaye inaweza kupelekea wao kupoteza maisha yao. Ufisadi umekithiri. Juzi umesikia Ruto anasema ati bunge hadi sisi ndio corrupt kushinda hata yeye. Yeye anasema hivyo kwa sababu hii kikosi ya Kenya Moja vile mnaona ni ya viongozi wa bunge wachanga. Hiyo story yote mlikuwa mnasikia ilikuwa kujaribu kutisha hawa watu ndio tusikuje hapa tuseme one term. Hiyo yote hakuna kitu ya maana pale. Sasa kule kwenye SHA, wewe unataka kuniambia huyu Sifuna vile mnawaambia mimi ni kwetu ni Bungoma. Wakati nilizaliwa kule Bungoma hakukuwa na hospitali. Mama yangu alienda mpaka mahali inaitwa St Mary's Hospital pale Mumias. St Mary's Hospital ni hospitali ambayo imekuwa pale tangu miaka ya 1930s. Na imekuwa inaendeshwa na kanisa Katoliki. Sasa kwa sababu William Ruto amefungua vita dhidi ya kanisa Katoliki, wanakataa kulipa hospitali kama St Mary's, wanalipa hospitali gushi ambazo hata haziko mahali popote. Wao wanapata mabilioni ya pesa. St Mary's imefungwa saa hii kwa sababu ya shilingi milioni 100 ambaye SHA imekataa kulipa. Niliwaambia kama Ruto angekuwa rais wakati mimi nazaliwa, angekuwa amekula St Mary's tayari, mimi ningezaliwa msituni. Ningezaliwa kwa barabara huko, wangekuwa wananiita na Angila ama Waangila. Mtu alizaliwa kwa barabara, si ndio? So, tunataka tumuambie vile ambavyo wabunge wa kitaifa wamesema hapa. Sisi kwenye Senate hatuna nguvu ya kutimua waziri. Lakini tunataka kuwashinikiza nyinyi ambao mko kwa National Assembly. Najua signature ziko tayari. Huyu Duale wakati mnatoka recess, muhakikishe mswada umeletwa, kwa sababu he must take political responsibility ya wizi ya pesa ya wananchi ambayo inafanyika pale kwenye SHA. Kina mama hapa vile imesemekana, kabla mtu afikishe shilingi 1,000 ama 5,000 hapa kwa soko, inamchukua muda mrefu sana.
Now to former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua now says that the Social Health Authority is a grand scam aimed at siphoning billions of taxpayers' money. While attending a church service in Kajiado County, Gachagua maintained his claim. that the State House is the epicenter of corruption through alleged bribery of delegations from various regions. Opposition allied leaders Eugene Wamalwa and former Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i said they will not relent in keeping the government accountable. Here are the full details to the story.
Non-existent hospitals. Sasa waziri taifa Duale anasema we shall shut down all those hospitals. How do you shut down hospitals that do not exist? Only Ikulu has become the center of corruption in broad daylight. It is very embarrassing. So pia tunataka watu ya Kajiado pia kutekeleza.
Have been stolen. We have ghost facilities that have received millions. You are overtaxing Kenyans with this SHA.
Inafanya kazi. Sasa si kingi ndio, people, watu wanafikiri sisi tunasema. Consumers wanasema inafanya kazi haifanyi.
You know what has been happening in the Ministry of Health? You know how they are eating money from SHA?
Well, from that now to the executive pushes for the implementation of the e-procurement system. The Council of Governors is set to convene an extraordinary summit to chiefly discuss that roll out of the system. Now, the national government touts as remedial to manual procurement bred corruption, and the Council of Governors says so far no county is using the system and maintains its position should not be viewed as a resistance to the directive, and instead glaring systematic insufficiencies should first be addressed. Here are the full details to the story.
What we have a problem with is if the system is either rushed and it's not well piloted successfully before it's fully implemented, and if there is no parallel run in case it doesn't work. Because some of the things that we're procuring are things that can't wait.
Out of the division indicates that the motion has been negatived. Consequently, the impeachment hearing hereby terminates.
We understand that some of these things are personal, and every case has to be prosecuted on its own merit, but it's a concern given the some of the cases that are coming up, and also some of the impeachment cases also.
The role of the transition to the electronic government procurement system championed by the National Treasury intensifies, with President William Ruto now saying there is no turning back on its implementation. Now, the president warned procurement officials opposed to the e-procurement system to resign.
To implement e-procurement, there is no going back. Any official who is not ready to work with us in e-procurement, they can as well leave. Waondoke kwa serikali, waende watafute kazi nyingine.
My plea to the accounting officers, don't listen to your procurement officers because they don't want to let go where they have been stealing public funds.
Watu wengi wamezoea kandarasi ya ukora. Kitu ya shilingi 2 tunanunua shilingi 10 kama serikali, kwa sababu ya procurement ya ukora hapo, ya quotation na nini na nini.
My team at the National Treasury did not have a weekend. They are making sure that by next week, all state departments, all county governments are ready to do procurement through e-procurement platform.
What this country has always required is leadership. Leadership that is prepared to make hard decisions.
There is a member of parliament, including myself, who is running the hospital and is involved in this fraud. We want to urge you, fieka hao. If there are people in the mainstream government who are also involved in this fraud around SHA, fieka hao, Rais.
We are supporting Baba Raila Amolo Odinga na President Ruto
to fight corruption. Ile corruption iko kwa serikali, Mheshimiwa Rais, onyesha sisi tutasaidia wewe kufagia.
The President, you are on the road of putting Kenya together. And this is exemplified by the fact that when you are forming your government, you included the people of Siaya.
From that, now to hundreds of learners have not reported for the third term, while tens of families have been rendered homeless as Lake Baringo, one of Kenya's most iconic freshwater bodies, once again busts its banks. Now, what was once a thriving destination for education, tourism, and fishing now lies in ruins, submerged beneath a relentless tide that brings with it hippos, crocodiles, and the looming specter of disaster. Here are the pictures from Baringo.
Kuna mamba ilikula mtoto ya shule, ilishika kwa bahati mbaya. So tunahofia kabisa kwa sababu the children are not safe.
Hii bahari wakati tulifunga shule ilikuwa sawa, haikuwa imeongezeka. Lakini tulipofungua ndio ikawa changamoto. Maji iliongezeka kwa bahari.
Yes, that appear insurmountable in the sense that every so often it rains and the rivers get flooded and people lose productive land, and sometimes it becomes difficult for residents to even navigate their way to their homes.
That now to as government kick-starts the compensation process of victims of protests. Several victims remain burdened and nursing bullet wounds sustained during the chaos. Despite having been discharged from hospitals, the victims have not had follow-up treatment due to a lack of resources. Here, full details to the story.
Kambiwa for clinic inafaa nikuwe na 1100. Sasa hiyo hata sina hata 1 bob. Ningefanya sasa ilibidi tu nirudi kwa sababu nilifikiria clinic bado nikienda napata ni bure venye ilikuwa.
Manage kupata fare kurudi huko thinking that it will be free. Daktari aliniuliza ati ushalipa, nikamuuliza kulipa nini? Ati si umekuja check up? Yeah. Akaniambia tu hii Kenya sasa hakuna kitu ya bure.
Wewe umeenda kuripoti police station uko na risasi. So utajua mimi ni muuni, wananichukulia hapo hatua. Yeah. Na mimi siko anachukua kitu ya mtu ama kufanya kitu ya mtu. Kidonda ipone. Niendelee na hustle yangu ya kila siku. Uliko kukaa chini kila saa unapigia mtu simu ukimwambia nisaidie 100, nisaidie 50 bob, nisaidie nini. Ya unajua saa kama saa hiyo job ilishapotea hivyo.
Kanaweza pata any job yenye naweza fanya na hii condition yangu. Yeah. Naweza furahia.
The dusk to dawn curfew has been imposed in the Tipis and Mwisho Walami areas in Nakuru County after fresh clashes rocked Mount Narok, leaving 1 person dead, 8 injured and 12 houses torched. Attention remains high in the area, with the government deploying heavy security to quell the situation.
Kosa amani, sisi ni mmoja wenye wamechomewa nyumba na tumeenda kutafuta amani.
Lakini yale mambo nilishuhudia usiku sijawahi shuhudia. Watu zaidi ya 200 walivamia center maploti yetu na mpaka kujeruhi wengine wesetu. Na ndio nimeona siwezi vumilia, heri niende nyumbani kidogo mpaka amani ipatikane, lakini najua kwa sababu Mungu yuko na serikali iko, suruhu itapatikana.
Waliniattack usiku mwendo wa saa 2. Watu walikuwa wengi, more than 20. So wakanipiga, wakanikata hapa hivi, then wakaathiri jicho.
3 ama 4 ambayo imepita tumekuwa na mizozo katika hii mji wetu wa Tipis, na mzozo huo ulitokana na kitu kidogo tu, kutoelewana kwa ajili ya mambo ya nini, ya umeme, si ndio hivyo?
Saa 1 home, 5 tuamuke. hata pale mwisho wa lami, na tumekubaliana na wao.
Now, what exactly is in the dailies this morning? And as we started off with the Daily Nation, now we started off with the Ghosts Paradise. What do they mean? Now, the admission by authorities that rogue hospitals tried to steal 10 billion from the Social Health Authority has revived past scandals involving fraudulent payments for ghost government workers, schools, and health facilities. Now, bogus employees, billions of taxpayers' money looted in fraudulent salaries for non-existent government employees, particularly in counties. Now, fictitious schools. Auditor General's special audit found that non-existent schools pocketed 3.7 billion in capitation funds over 4 years, and phony learners. Now, authorities have flagged infiltrated enrollment figures with reports showing schools steal more than 700 million annually. And in fact, hospitals audits uncover looting for billions through fraudulent claims under the state medical scheme, including defunct National Health Insurance Fund. Now, this story you'll find on pages 2 and 3 of the Daily Nation this morning. Now, among other stories include any government official who is not willing to use it can resign. That is President William Ruto. And the crisis over county tenders and new jobs. And our government has convened an emergency meeting today to address this the stallment of hiring 7,414 medics and the Treasury's electronic procurement system, which has stalled county budgets. That is a story that you'll find on page 4 of the Daily Nation. Among other stories include technology, how AI is changing lives in new order. Now, artificial intelligence is rapidly reshaping every aspect of life, with its disruptive impact already evident. Here's how AI is transforming society. That is a story that is covered on page 12 of the Daily Nation. Now, Rango's a hiring of 10,000 police officers in jeopardy. Now, deep divisions in the National Police Service Commission threatens the process as tough wars between commanders and commissioners escalate into crisis. That is a story that you'll find on page 8 of the Nation this morning. Now, Somali youth trapped in Libya's trafficking cells. That is a story that you'll find on page 10 of the Daily Nation. And from the Nation now to the Standard. The headlining story in the Standard is unmoved by outcry. Now, they have survived scandals that would have ruined lesser men. From the looting of billions under their watch to questionable oil imports, a high death toll from road accidents and serious human rights abuses. But Aden Duale, Davis Churchill and Kipchumba Murkomen remain untouchable, shielded not by performance but by their unbreakable bond with President William Ruto. In Ruto's inner circle, survival is not about service, it is about loyalty, and scandal is merely the cost of doing business. That is a story that you'll find on pages 4 and 5 of the Standard this morning. Now, broad best at one, chronisms or unlocking the country's potential. And 1 year since opposition leader Raila Odinga joined government, opinion is still divided. Was it an easy way to power, or has the union stabilized the country and made the lives of Kenyans better? That is, Manchester United's players stand behind a Belgian boss, Robert Amorim, and deserve the blame for the club's Calmunia's start to the season. Now, Amorim's side needed a last gasp penalty from Bruno Fernandes to beat promoted Burnley 3-2 on Saturday after twice blowing the lead at Old Trafford. Now, United's first Premier League win in 3 games this term came just days after a humiliating League Cup second round loss at the 4th tier Grimsby. And Amorim had admitted after the stunning cup defeat that he sometimes thinks about quitting United and often hits his players, with speculation still swirling about Amorim's future despite the much-needed victory over Burnley. United defender De Ligt backed his boss. And now to Szoboszlai game sees Liverpool win over Arsenal, and Dominic Szoboszlai's brilliant free kick fired Liverpool to a dramatic 1-0 win over title rivals Arsenal, while Manchester City suffered a shock 2-1 defeat at Brighton that extended their troubled start to the season on Sunday. Now Szoboszlai's called a sublime set piece past Arsenal keeper David Raya with 7 minutes left at Anfield in a tense clash between the two leading contenders for the Premier League crown. Now the Hungary midfielder's game was enough to seal a third successive league victory for champions Liverpool as Arsenal lost for the first time, this time following consecutive wins. Now Arsenal finished as runners-up behind Liverpool last season, and the clubs have been engaged in inexpensive arms races at the end of the season.